Lillahi ta'ala, correct your intentions. Barakallahu fikum. Ahlan wa sahlan. Good to see you all again. We are continuing in the book of fasting. And what have we covered so far? Let's see. So there's not a lot here, as you can see here. We covered the integrals, we covered the invalidators. So what's left now is to talk about, and we covered breaking the fast too. So what's left now is to talk about the makeup fast and the redemption payment and the expiation. And looks like Irtikaf needs its own title there. There. Irtikaf too. So let's start, inshallah, talking about making up the fast. So we want to talk about making up the fast here. Making up the fast means then you've missed a fast. If you missed a fast, either you missed it with an excuse or without an excuse. And there's no way to make up a fast during Ramadan. There's no way to make up a fast during Ramadan, because all the days of Ramadan are occupied. There's no space for makeup to fit in there. So you have no choice if you miss something from Ramadan but to wait until it's over and then make up that fast after the Eid. Invalidating the fast without an excuse is haram. Then you're going to have to make that one up immediately. And delaying a makeup for a fast that was missed without an excuse, that's haram too. So if you did miss a day of fasting with no excuse, you must make it up immediately. Immediately after the Eid. Let the idea of that be something that you really don't like, and it's the reason for you to not break your fast. Might as well fast it now, not then, not later. Now in the time, not later outside of the time with a sin. And the person doesn't want to fast now, he's going to have to fast on a day that is outside of Ramadan too. So get it done now. The permission to delay making up a fast that you missed is when you did not transgress. If you miss the fast with an excuse, with no sin, then you can delay making it up. Like the case of a woman who menstruated, or the pregnant woman, or the nursing woman, or others. We'll see what we have here. But once you do start making up a fast outside of Ramadan, because there's no other time for making up a fast but outside of Ramadan, then on that day you're not allowed to interrupt that fast because it's obligatory, and it's not permissible to interrupt an obligation as a broad rule. A broad rule that transcends fasting. You cannot interrupt an obligation. So any day that's being made up, any day of Ramadan that's being made up outside of Ramadan, once you actually start that makeup, even if you were allowed to delay it, even if you were allowed to delay that makeup, once you actually start on that day, you can't break it because it's obligatory. And as a broad rule, it's not permissible to interrupt an obligation. So if a person lost his mind by his own transgression, like he consumed something that rendered him a lunatic, made him lose his mind. Now that he lost his mind, he's not even accountable. He's not sinful while he lost his mind. But here in this scenario, he lost his mind sinfully. So he must make up the fast immediately. The loss of mind breaks the fast, just like eating does. The loss of mind is not like sleeping. Taking a nap does not break your fast. But if you were in a coma throughout the whole daytime, or you were comatose throughout the whole daytime, from before dawn until after sunset, or you were a traveler and you broke your fast as a traveler, or you were sick and you broke your fast because you were sick, then you are allowed to delay making up the fast. Delaying here means you don't have to do it immediately, but it does not mean that you can delay it past the next Ramadan. You do need to get that fast done before the next Ramadan comes in. Or else then you're going to have a payment to pay. We're going to talk about payments, inshallah. The sick person has two cases, as you know. Either he hopes for cure or not. Either way, though, he doesn't have to fast. Whether he hopes for cure or he doesn't hope for cure. It's the one who does hope for cure, like he's sick now, and he'll probably get better, inshallah. Once his flu passes, or his cold passes, or once his COVID subsides, he'll be better, inshallah. This one who has hope for cure, he's allowed to delay making up his fast until before the next Ramadan. Same thing for the pregnant woman, same thing for the nursing woman. Yes. So, pregnant woman and nursing woman, what's their case? If they fear for themselves, they can break the fast, even if they don't fear for their babies. If they fear for their babies, they can break the fast, even without fearing for themselves. Or they might fear for themselves and the baby. Fearing what? Fearing miscarriage, or fearing not making enough milk for the nursing baby. So they were allowed to break the fast in this case, so it's permissible for them to delay making it up before the next Ramadan, though. They need to make it up before the next Ramadan. The old person doesn't have to make it up because he doesn't have any hope to get young. And the sick person who has no hope for cure also does not have to make it up because he has no hope for cure. So this one, these ones, they need to pay a redemption payment. Fidyah. Uh, if you want a ransom, they need to pay a ransom. Something to clear themselves. Redemption. They need to redeem themselves for not fasting and not even being able to make it up. They couldn't fast and they couldn't even make it up. So they need to redeem themselves. So they're going to pay something. Same thing for this pregnant woman or nursing woman. The one who broke her fast for other than herself, not for her own sake. She had no personal fear. She broke her fast only for someone else. Then she will have to remake this fast, and she has to redeem herself. The redemption payment. Fidyah. So Fidyah means, I'll say when we get to it. We're talking about making up fast now. Any question? Now here we have some talk about fasting on behalf of your dead relative who had fasting to make up, or giving a charity, or what do you do, if anything, for your dead relative who died having fasting? Let's come back to this when we, inshallah, read this document anew, this detail here. And we're going to keep it simpler for now by not mentioning this case. And anyone who broke his fast with an excuse, and then he died before he could make it up, then he doesn't have any makeup on him, and he doesn't have to redeem himself by a redemption payment, and he doesn't have a sin. If you have any question, feel free, please. I hope I'm not going too fast. So now let's talk about the redemption payment. You see, this English word, redemption, comes from the word redeem. Redeem means like for a person to reestablish himself, to reposition himself, to put himself back into good standing. That's what the word redeem means. Now, the Arabic word fidyah, it has the meaning of ransom. Ransom. I would say here ransom payment, but then nobody's going to know what I'm talking about. So I'll just stick to what the Muslims got used to here. Redemption payment. It's like he's redeeming himself by putting up a ransom to save himself for missing the honor of Ramadan's fasting time. It is a bowl, a mud bowl. What's a mud? Two average sized hands cupped together like a bowl. This mud bowl of a man. A man's average sized hands, not small hands, not big hands. Full of the most common staple of the town. What's the most common staple of the town? Is it wheat? Is it rice? Is it corn? No, let's not just say staple. Staple crop. A plant. Plants. Not just staple. Staple is broader than crops and plants. Staple is like what people just eat and survive on, is widespread for them and common. Reliable source. That's a staple. We're talking here about crops that are subject to zakat. Plants that are subject to zakat. Those grains and those fruits, the grapes, not the grapes, sorry, the raisins and the dates. So, what is this redemption payment? How would you redeem yourself and pay your ransom? By paying for every missed day. For every missed day. So you're going to count how many days you missed. Two average hands cupped together. But wait, now something maybe is going to get confusing. Okay. When I say for every day you missed, I don't mean every single person who missed a day has to redeem himself with this payment. No. We're going to see here. It's coming now. We have 4 cases. One of who needs to pay. So, if you are one of those people who have to redeem yourself, who has to redeem himself, then you're going to redeem yourself by paying a bowl that we have described. A bowl the size of 2 average hands cupped together, or a cup yani if you want to. Full of the most common staple crop of the town. Meat could be a staple for some people. So I don't want to just use the word staple only. Staple crop, which is plants we're talking about here. For every missed day from one's own money to the poor. If you're one of these that we're going to name, then for every day you're going to pay a bowl to the poor. But what if you are poor? Then it will remain in your account. And then when you become able, you're going to pay it. So if a person is himself poor, then this ransom or redemption is going to stay in his account until he fulfills it. And who has to pay this? We have 4 cases here. 1, the sick who is hopeless of cure. The sick person who's hopeless of cure. So I'd actually like to put for number 1 the elderly. Number 1, the elderly. That means old person who has no hope to get young and cannot withstand fasting. Most important part of this phrase is cannot withstand fasting. It's not actually just because the person is old. It's not merely because the person is old that he's allowed to not fast and then he's going to redeem himself with a payment. It's the elderly person who is unable to fast. He's like a sick person, not an elderly person who's strong and can fast. So this one, since he has no hope to get young again, then all he has to do is pay. He doesn't have to make up a fast. And also a sick person who's hopeless of cure. So number 1 and number 2 are almost the same. In terms of this rule, they are the same. Sick one who is hopeless of cure, so that's clear for you. He has some terminal illness, but it's not just because he has a diagnosis. That's important. Someone's going to tell you, well, I've been diagnosed with such and such. That doesn't mean you cannot fast because you have a diagnosis. Having diagnosis doesn't mean you're actually sick. Subhanallah. And the third one is the pregnant and nursing women who broke their fast for the sake of their children. That's important detail here. Don't forget. The pregnant and the nursing women, not because they broke their fast, they have to pay a redemption, but because they broke their fast for the sake of other than themselves. They did not break their fast for themselves for any personal concern. So then they have the permission to break the fast for the sake of their babies, and then they must do a redemption payment or a redemption. And number four, not making up the fast before the next Ramadan comes in. Every Ramadan that comes in without you making up the obligatory fast that is due upon you, for every Ramadan that comes, there is an expiation, a bowl to be paid. So if you let 5, 6, 7 Ramadans pass without making up that 1 year, something you didn't make up a couple years ago, then count all the Ramadans that came too when you're ready to redeem yourself and clear your account before you die, because you've been thinking about death more and you think about going into your grave and coming out on resurrection day, and you want to be in good standing. So you're going to calculate how many Ramadans passed since that time you didn't make up those fastings. And for each Ramadan, you're going to pay a bowl, a mud bowl. Any question? Could I repeat the last few sentences? Only one bowl for the whole Ramadan or per day? One bowl per Ramadan, not per day. So last few sentences, we're saying a person did not make up days of Ramadan that were due when the next Ramadan came in. So the next Ramadan came in and the person did not make up whatever they had to make up. Then by this Ramadan coming in, a bowl is due, this redemption payment. Now you need to make it up before the next Ramadan comes in. And if the next Ramadan comes in after that and you still didn't make it up, then another bowl is due for each Ramadan, not for each day. That's it. I think that's it. Was there something you need me to repeat in particular? Okay. So that is Fidyah, redemption payment, which is the ransom. Why are you going to do that? Or let's say who? Who's going to do that? We have 4 cases here. Old person, a, a sick person hopeless of cure, pregnant and nursing woman. Both of those are one case. And not making up before the next Ramadan comes in. Those are your cases of redemption payment. Is this for a person that doesn't have an excuse? For any person. Whether the person missed his fasting with an excuse or without an excuse. If the next Ramadan comes in without making it up, then you owe a bowl. Yes?
That each bowl is for every day that you missed. For example, if somebody missed 5 days because of they are breastfeeding, because they're afraid they might not have enough milk, when the Ramadan finished, when they are able, they can fast, and every day for those 5 days they have to pay a redemption, right? Not for Ramadan, for each day of the missed fasting. For the woman who missed, who did not fast because of she's breastfeeding, she thought that
Yes,
she
yes,
might
yes,
not
yes,
have.
yes. That's true. Yes. Okay, so let me say it again then. Elderly person who has no hope to get young. Sick person has no hope for cure. For every day, and this pregnant or nursing woman who broke her fast for the sake of her children, not for a personal fear. These 3, for every day missed, the person has to pay a bowl for every day missed. That's right. That's one thing. Then, now you have some fasting you need to make up. If a person has some fasting he needs to make up, this is another case. Person has fasting that needs to be made up and waited until next Ramadan came in. And he didn't make up what he had to make up. Now a bowl is due for the Ramadan that came in because Ramadan came in without you yani, making up your fasting. So one bowl for that Ramadan coming in, the next one. And then the next year, if you still didn't make it up, another bowl, and like that. That's how you remember Hajjah, all of what I'm saying now.
Well, if I remember it well, if you postpone it for 8 years, for each day, if you
For 8 years,
eight, yeah, for example, uh, you break it this year, and then you didn't make it up. Not the next year, not the next year. 8 years passed. According to the Shafi'i, then you have to pay 8 fidyah for each day,
for each day or for each year?
for each day that you missed.
8 fidyas for each day you missed.
Yes,
Okay, I don't
because
know this detail.
yeah, else if you are going by the other, you don't have to pay fidya at all. In another madhab.
So what you know, Hajjah, is that at year 8, then it becomes like that.
Yeah, if you postpone it 8 years past since you missed that Ramadan, whether you have excuse or not excuse, then according to Shafi, 8 balls for each day. If you missed one 8 balls. If you missed two for each one.
Oh, mashallah, I didn't know about this. Barakallahu fikum.
آمين وفيكم شيخ.
Hmm. But if we want to now just keep it easy, let's not consider the issue of 8 years. Just let's stick to the basic rule first. So I'll repeat. First three here out of number, there's four here. First three, their case is that for every day missed, a bowl needs to be paid. Okay, I think that's clear. So it means if they miss 30 days, they're going to pay 30 bowls. The fourth case is when the person doesn't make up what needs to be made up by the time the next Ramadan comes in. Then there's a bowl due for that. And then when next Ramadan comes in, there's a bowl due for that. And now sister just mentioned a detail that I didn't know about 8 years. Any question here? Okay, so that's all clear. Now let's move on to the expiation. Kaffaarah. Kaffaarah means in Arabic covering. Covering. So you need to cover yourself here for something. Expiation, kaffaarah, is only for, merely, only. Yani, I'm repeating myself because it never fails that this gets mixed up for the people. This kaffaarah is merely, only, exclusively for breaking the fast in Ramadan by sexual intercourse in a haram way. Not like you had an excuse, not like you were a traveler and you decided to break your fast by sexual intercourse. That's permissible. No, we talk about a person who was obligated to fast. And without forgetting that he was fasting, he had sexual intercourse and broke his fast. Well, I'm not reading all the words here. I'm just keeping it easy, inshallah. We'll come back and read everything. Bi'ithnillah. A person was obligated to fast uh, and even he made his intention also. He did make his intention at night. He made his intention at night and he's obligated to fast. And then in the daytime, without forgetting the fast, he broke his fast by sexual intercourse. This is the case that has the expiation. You should not be confused here. Why not? Because you should say to yourself, the case of breaking the fast by sexual intercourse is unique. This case does not have something that goes with it. It's only for sexual intercourse. So, what is it? This sexual intercourse case must be different from the case of the pregnant woman, must be different from the case of the sick person or the old person. What's the case of the sick person, the old person, the pregnant woman, the nursing woman? Their case is they're going to have to pay a bowl for every day they missed. Sexual intercourse is a completely different judgment and has a completely different name, even. This case for the sexual intercourse, what you're going to have to do is called Kaffaarah, expiation. That case about the elderly and the sick and the pregnant and nursing, that's called Fidyah. Fidyah. So now don't mix this up for the rest of your life. You said, so does a person have to redeem themselves if they fell out of Islam? There's no Fidyah for that. The Fidyah is going to be what I mentioned for you here. But the fast wasn't valid because they weren't Muslim and they didn't make up that month. Uh, okay, so if a person had fasting that he was obligated to make up, like an apostate, and then the next month came in, the next Ramadan came in without making it up, there's a Fidyah. A bowl must be paid. Not because of the apostasy, because of not making up the fast before the next Ramadan came in. Question, is it sinful for someone to break their fast via sexual intercourse? Does he have an excuse to break his fast? I'm asking you, the one who's asking me. Does the person in question have an excuse to break his fast in the first place? The sunset? Ah, that's what you mean. Oh, well, then it's not sinful. It's not haram. The sun went down. Okay. So, now we're talking about the case of Kaffaarah, expiation. We're done with Fidyah. And now, inshallah, you will never mix up Fidyah and expiation, yani redemption and expiation. You'll never mix them up for the rest of your lives. Fidyah versus Kaffaarah. Redemption versus expiation. So what is this expiation? It is first to free a believing slave without defects. To free a believing slave without defects, you must follow the sequence. If you can't, because you can't find one or you can't afford one, then to fast for 2 consecutive lunar months. To fast for 2 consecutive months, other than the day that you invalidated, you got to make that one up too. So you're going to make up the day that was invalidated by the sexual intercourse and then fast for 2 more months because you couldn't free a slave. And you can't interrupt that's why it says consecutive. If you interrupt this for any reason, even a reason, yani even an excuse, like you got sick or like Eid came and you can't fast, you're still going to have to start over. So you have to do it consecutively. If this were your case and you had to do this, make sure you time it in such a way that it's not going to get interrupted by the Eid, or else you're just going to have to make it up anyway. You're going to have to start over from the beginning. And if you can't do that, then you would feed 60 poor Muslims. Each one of them would be given a bowl, the same bowl we've been talking about, as if it were a redemption. But it's not. 60 poor Muslims, each one of them gets his own bowl. And if you can't do anything, then it's going to be in your account until you can do one of them. When you become able to do one of them, you do that one. Not to mention, you're going to have to repent for breaking your fast in that way. So you're going to have to repent for breaking your fast like that, and you're going to have to make up that fast and fulfill the kaffarah, freeing a slave, or fasting for 2 months, or feeding 60 poor Muslims in order. And as for the details here, we can save them for when we come back and read this again. Let this information soak in first. And we'll stop there. Next chapter is the i'tikaf. Well, I'm not ready to go over i'tikaf yet. Or I'll think about it. If we'll read i'tikaf, or we're going to go back to the beginning. My inclination is just go back to the beginning and then start reading the details. Question: if someone got sick during Ramadan and she is not able to fast, she's paying expiation. Wait, before I even read further. If she is paying expiation, means that she has no hope for cure. There's two types of sick people: one that has hope for cure, one that has no hope for cure. The one who has hope for cure only has to make it up. He doesn't have to pay anything. The one who has no hope for cure, he's not going to make it up because he can't fast, so he's going to pay something. All right, I'm just making sure it's clear for you. So you said if someone got sick during Ramadan and she's not able to fast, so she's paying the expiation. She made the intention. She made the intention that she would make up the fast after Ramadan, which she missed. But this intention to make it up, why she's making that intention? Is she a person who has hope for cure or has no hope for cure? If she has no hope for cure, then she does not have to make up the fast. She only has to pay something. But a few months later, she passed away. Should anyone, like her kids or siblings, have to make up fasting on her behalf? Not obligated. They're not obligated to make up fast on her behalf. But there is here details that I skipped. But since you asked, only because you asked, I'll go ahead and look at them now. I'll read them. But make sure that the detail here is clear for you so you don't mix up something. So, here, the new school of Ash-Shafi'i, and what Ash-Shafi'i documented in most of his old books, is that whoever dies having fasting of Ramadan upon him, then his heir, the one who inherits from him, or even a stranger, pays food on his behalf from his money, from the money of the dead person. One bowl for every day. So according to this saying, there's no fasting on behalf of the dead, because the fasting is a bodily worship. And every bowl can be paid to one poor Muslim. And the other saying, so there's two sayings in the Shafi'i school, is that it's obligatory to fast on his behalf. There's still more details. I won't read more though, for now. But can they fast on her behalf?
Uh,
One moment, please. So I just shared two sayings with you here. According to one saying, there is no fasting on that person's behalf. The new school of Ash-Shafi'i is that whoever dies having fasting of Ramadan, his heir or even a stranger pays food on his behalf. According to this, one does not fast on behalf of the dead. So that's a saying. According to a saying, there's no fasting on behalf of the dead person. Rather, food will be paid, a bowl for every missed day. And according to another saying in the Shafi'i school, there would be fasting done on behalf of that person. Yes, Hajjah.
yes, that's your second one. That's voluntarily. Any of the relatives, or as you said, as strangers, they can make up for the dead person, whether it is a relative or mother, father, whoever they are, or the fasting that did not they made it after they
What
died.
I have, that is obligatory.
No, no, it is not obligatory. I asked Sheikh. mashallah, this question. And or somebody who's fast, they didn't fast because of they were sick, whatever it is. The inheritance or their kids voluntarily they can make it up for them. They can fast for them voluntarily.
Yeah, that's a saying too. That's a saying too. So yes. Yeah, hakada. That's also a saying too. I have it here. Al Basir says that fasting is recommended, not obligatory, while paying is permissible. So that's the saying you're saying now, Hajj. Not obligatory. And they're
Yes,
saying that it's
barakallahu fikum.
obligatory.
Yes,
Sorry?
barakallahu fikum. I say yes, barakallahu fikum.
Amin wa fikum.
Amen.
And they're saying that it's obligatory. They're saying that it's not obligatory. And they're saying that there's no fasting, just paying, just feeding. So originally I wanted to skip this detail for now just to keep the lesson light. But since you asked me, I went into it for you. Who will do the fasting on behalf of the dead person? The person's heir here. So is what is considered, according to the old school, an inheriting relative or the asaba or mere relation? Who's the one who has to fast? Al-Rafi'i said what is most likely is the inheriting relative. So according to Rafi'i, most likely is the inheriting relative. And Anawi said it's enough to just be related, just as relative. And it's valid for a non-relative to fast on behalf of this dead person if he left a will for that, or by the permission of the relative, or by permission of the relative for the non-relative to do it. And it's valid for the non-relative to take a salary for that, Someone's paying this non-relative to fast on behalf of that dead Muslim. That's valid. That's a valid job. Alhamdulillah, mashallah. طيب. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.